Welcome to Mentor. I'm Rachel Ford.
I'm Marco Bertozzi.
And coming up today, Marco, we have Shamandi, or Andy Hart, an amazing guest that we've known for a long time in the industry.
It's a very different listen, I think is fair to say, because Andy has lived a very different path, I think, to a lot of people.
I think it's amazing that at age 50 on the dance floor of the Groucho, he announced that he was going to go travelling, quit corporate world and go travelling. And then I think
Very
6
brave.
months turned into 3 years. But the lessons that he learned along that way, and how actually the more you understand about yourself, the better leader you can be in your corporate world, or in your business and your personal life. So let's get over to Andy.
Right, joining us now is what I like to describe as the enigma, I can't say it. Easy for me to say. Enigma that is Andy Hart. Andy's been, first of all, incredibly successful executive in the media, marketing and advertising industry, and then made us all quite jealous by deciding to put himself first and travel the world, experience cultures, and enrich your spiritual journey, which we'll obviously talk a bit more about. So I can't wait to get into all of that. Andy, welcome. How's your week been?
Thank you very much. Always amazing. I'm very privileged to be here. So thanks, guys.
Oh no, you were top of the list. You were top of the list, Andy.
We say that to everyone, obviously. Don't listen to the podcast.
No, I'm very excited by what you're doing. So I wouldn't change anything apart from being here and seeing what happens.
Well, this is it. We're going to just have a nice old chat, aren't we?
Well, we are, but we're going to put you on the spot to start with your career in 60 seconds. We ask it every week because look, I'm particularly interested about. Actually, I'm as much interested in your latter part of your career to your first, but I think just to set the scene for the listeners, if you can try and just do it in a slightly abridged version, but do give the depth to all the experience along the way.
Thank you. Well, it's beautiful that we're doing this here in Broadwick Street. I started my career at VNU, which is across the road, and I finished my corporate career at Hearst, which was upstairs.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So it's like
coming home.
Yeah, and that's my corporate career. My kind of social career also happened in Soho, so a lot of things have happened down here.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later, shall we, Andy?
We shall do. I grew up in advertising. I went into media sales. The VNU sales training was amazing. I jumped into agencies when it was like really sexy in the 80s, and I got to work on computer accounts as well as FMCG. No one else wanted to work on computer accounts. And then all of a sudden I was able to elevate myself, in the agencies, take on more responsibility than I probably deserved. And I jumped from there. One of the deputy chairman of the agency that I worked for went to a publisher and took me with him. Thank goodness, Jeff Mears, thank you for everything. And that became the platform where I became an international publisher, marketing consultant, and then we went on to some really good things, which was the bringing search engines to Europe with Ask Jeeves.
Takes me back, Ask Jeeves. I was starting my digital journey,
right,
2000-ish.
I mean, can you imagine the conversation? I'd be working in magazines, then I ran a national newspaper, working for the great Bert Hardy and the Barclay brothers, second of two billionaires. And all of a sudden, I'm telling my parents-in-law, I'm going to work on the internet.
Yeah, I know. The World Wide Web. Yeah.
What's the internet? Are you crazy? You're 31 years old. You're running a national newspaper. Why are you going to the internet? But it was obvious that this is where it was going. And I had sales training. I had marketing training. I understood publishing. Reasonable manager. Okay leader. I thought I was great, but I learned later, maybe not so much so. And I made the jump, and it was Magic Thursday. I got 5 offers from 5 different internet companies, and I chose search engines. And this is before Google.
Yeah,
and it was me and a PA and a computer on our desk.
Yeah,
in Covent Garden. Anyway, that jumped forward. That went well. I then went to do the transformation at the Mel Group. Rothermere hired me to transformed newspapers online. I built the Mail online, did 18 acquisitions, helped the regionals, 150 newspapers become digital. And then we did all the marketplace stuff with jobs and properties and motors, and that was all great. And then all of a sudden it came to an end because digital and analog needed to come together. They didn't need a separate digital division. And to be quite honest, I was burnt out. I really, really pushed it. I was working very hard, 7 days a week, 18-hour days, got divorced, and just needed a break. Yeah. So I went and did some consulting stuff for about 2 or 3 years, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. Quite hard to work on your own.
It can be lonely. It can be lonely sometimes.
Yeah, I do remember on the second week, I did write to my PA, apologising and thanking her for how she managed my diary. I don't know.
Oh God, yeah.
And then, but within about 3 months, I realised I could get more done on a Monday morning on my own than I could in a week in corporate, and that became very interesting. However, as you know, I got then
you went back.
I went back. Microsoft came and said, "Come and help us," because I had to take a step back to go forward. So I went back to be the country manager at Microsoft.
I remember that very clearly.
Yeah,
started.
And but that went really quickly, and eventually, within a year, I was running Europe, Middle East, and Africa, a VP of Microsoft. I was very excited, and I've got to say, it's probably the best place I've ever worked.
Yeah,
they're
a good employer. I mean,
amazing, and I had an incredible team around me as well. Brought in some faces, and we did some amazing things creatively. And I learned a lot. And what was brilliant was the amount of time that they invested in us as leaders and managers to teach us how to be great leaders and managers. And then I ended up, after Microsoft sold our division, which was one of my regrets, to go to Hearst, which was one of my mistakes, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I had a fantastic time being the Global Chief Revenue Officer at Hearst magazines, and then on my 50th birthday party at the Groucho, which was great, I announced I'm stopping, and then I went off and went traveling for 3 years into the jungle and found another world.
I know, and I want to get into that later.
So you were 50 at that point, because I definitely had you pegged as younger than that, so well done.
You look so youthful.
You look so useful, Andy. So we do want to get into that, because we're going to, there are a number of times we'll come back to the various career corporate things, but I think at the time that announcement, obviously people who were there were aware of it, but to a lot of other people, we suddenly started seeing Andy in far-flung places, dressed in
lots of hats, lots of amazing
bandanas,
hats,
relaxed clothing, and generally looking like you're having the time of your life. And I think I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that people, whether it doesn't matter whether they know you or not, people seeing other people go from successful corporate life to this completely other way of living were like, didn't know what to do with it. They're like, is he happy? Is he mad? Has it, what, no one really a lot of people couldn't get their head around it, because we're so conditioned, aren't we? Let's face it, to do corporate job, retire, consult, whatever it may be. What was the inspiration for that? And, how, looking back now and all of those experiences you had, how have they changed you? And even now, when you are working, you're an advisor, you're a coach, you're an investor, whatever. How have those experiences helped with your current sort of lifestyle?
There's a lot to unpack there.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
We can stop.
Was it brilliant or bonkers?
Yes to everything. And that's one of the things that I learned, is to say yes.
Yeah.
I remember Martin Sorrell saying to me when I was a VP at Microsoft, "What's your job?" "Oh, I'm running a region at Microsoft." He said, "Oh, well done. That means you're only allowed to say no." And that was a big reflection which stayed with me as I went forward. Unless you get to the very top, you're not allowed to say yes in those big corporations. No, but for me, was it mad? Of course it was mad. I mean, who else does that? It was only going to be for 6 months, but it ended up being 3 years. Was it sensible? I think financially, probably not, but spiritually, yes. It was challenging for my family as well, because I was away a lot, but my son had just gone to university. My dog had just died. I'd split up with my girlfriend. I was single again. And I thought, do I need to go and do another corporate job? And remember, the jobs that I was doing at Hearst and Microsoft, I was on a plane 3 times a week.
Yeah.
You know, millions of miles. And I wasn't really seeing the places. And one of the great mentors, external mentors, Simon, that I had at Microsoft said, when you go to visit these places, build into your calendar half a day just to go and see stuff.
Experience it,
And I didn't, even though he told me to.
Yeah.
I just needed to get the next deal done. I needed to get the next quarter done. I needed to get the numbers.
It is more easily said than done.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, you know, and you both know me for a long time. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. And I'll do it in a big way. And I went. And it was magical. Now, what was the inspiration? A lot of it was Burning Man, of course. The people I met at Burning Man, when I got outside of the corporate experience and I met real entrepreneurs that were living, let's say, more flexible lives, taking risks, and saying yes, and dealing with the outcome and learning how to deal with the outcome of things that didn't go quite right was a very new thing to me.
Yeah.
And then I just learned to stop thinking and go with my gut. And then that became very interesting.
Yeah.
So I spent about 5 years learning to go with the flow. I know it sounds very hippie, but, you know, as you start to, I guess they call it biohack these days, and you look after your body, and you remember I wasn't quite as fit and toned as I am now. Then the body will tell you what the right thing to do is.
What did you learn? So, what did you learn about yourself? Did you go deep into who you are as a person?
Very deep.
I was going to say, like, probably enhanced experiences.
Yes, well, definitely. I went to jungles and worked with tribes, and I tried the ayahuasca, and that really worked for me. And so I went further. And of course, being driven by the need to know, I had to go and try every shamanic potion that there was, and then become an expert in it. Partly a little bit out of fear, but also partly because I was onto something.
Yeah.
It really broke me open and broke me out of the matrix. It was quite difficult when I first came back to London, and especially walking into the Groucho in sandals and a beard and a cape.
I can see that.
And, you know, and it's that Andy Hart, my son, bless him, who's a superstar, started calling me Shamandi.
Yeah, Shamandi, that's a good one.
Which was very good. And I went deep into it, and I've tried, certainly during COVID, to recalibrate all of those learnings.
Yeah.
So what is it? I mean, you know, me first, you talked about that earlier, was quite important. I'd always put everyone else first. But learning me first was quite important. If I can be the best version of me, I can be the best version of me for everyone else. The other great thing I learned at Burning Man is what I call serotonin.
Oh, right.
So that when you really put yourself first and you're really in the moment, you've got so much serotonin that you want to share it.
And you want to give.
With everyone else. And actually life is about giving. And I learned this deeply one day when one of the elders there was trying to get me to understand, what is the verb to help? What does it mean to help?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm a public school boy, over 6 foot. And I've been taught that to help is, I'll come and do it for you. I'm going to make your life better. I'll do it for you. Yeah. And they said, no, that's not what to help is. To help is to enable someone to be able to do it themselves the next time. And that was it's so obvious when you say it.
Yeah.
But it was such a learning for me, because I was a fixer. I could fix things. I could make things happen. My brain was faster than most. I could get things done. But I wasn't scaling because I wasn't enabling other people to learn what the tricks were to make the world better.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see that in the corporate world, that you're only as good as the team around you, and you should never be the most intelligent person in the room. Or you're in the wrong room. It's about how you all learn from each other. But I am really interested in terms of, you just mentioned your son. Would you advise? I suppose would you advise him to follow a similar route, and B, has it changed your parenting style in terms of enabling versus doing it? Has it changed things?
Very much so.
Has it?
Very much so. When he was 19, I took him out to Tulum.
Oh, I love Tulum.
Yeah, and he got to see a mini Burning Man scene. And I wanted him to see the world and make the choices himself. And I've always allowed him to make the choices himself. He knows I'm there to catch him if it goes wrong. And also with a lot of my mentees as well, it's too easy for us to do it for them. I can pick up the phone call to the right person and just make it happen. No, they've got to go and do it. If it goes wrong, then catch them. And if you can give them that space, they'll take calculated risks in a better way. And that's the right way to learn.
Yeah.
But it must have been difficult for him. All of a sudden, Mr. Microsoft, it's become Shamandi. I mean, and I love him for allowing me to go through that. But he's made his own choices, and he's got a great corporate career, and that's the way he wants to go. And I'll support him whichever direction he wants to go.
Did you mention right at the top about you thought you were a 10 out of 10 boss? Let's put it like that. And
oh my God!
Turns out you're a 9 out of 10. God forbid. But what did you discover about that? And was that all related, or was that just separate reflection on how you were as a boss?
So I've been very blessed to have some very good and some very bad managers, and you actually learn more from the bad managers than sometimes from the good. But being in corporate, training and development was a big thing, and I've been blessed that the companies I work for really invested in me. So when I was at DMGT, I was on the board of Associated and Northcliffe. They gave me John Cummins, he was actually Rothermere's coach. He was coaching some of the CEOs of, some of the big media companies, and he changed my life. We can talk about him later if you wish. But they sent me to INSEAD to go and do the most amazing course, which was the Challenge of Leadership. You had handpicked 20 people. This was, a number of years ago, and we're still in the same group. We still meet every year. And I turned up with my Excel spreadsheet and my calculator and my fresh pencil. And it wasn't about finance and marketing and management. It was about psychology and Eastern philosophy. And they broke us apart and put us back together. And what I learned, which I kind of, if you want the cliche now, is I learned how to get out of the way of myself. I was in the way of myself, which was, whether it's call it ego or hubris or the way that I'm seeing things, trying to force that onto other people, especially the speed that we work at in media, especially in the digital media world, it tends to get in the way. So for the first thing was get out of the way of myself, and that gives room for other people to go at their pace. The second thing I learned was no one's going to do it my way. So I've got to learn to enhance them to do it their way.
Yeah.
And that was really, really hard. So I was quite, what's the bad stuff? The drive-by shootings, they were called. So I would go down onto the sales floor and I would ask what I thought were pithy, great questions, but it was unfair because they were questions that I was being asked at VP level to general managers or to sales managers. And it was, I didn't understand fully the power that you had of the position,
the impact of that,
and the impact of them on.
Well, allowing them to thrive versus feeling, oh shit, he's coming. Like actually, how they're in control of their own.
And so I was blessed with that training, and I learned how to then actually just be there to be of service rather than to direct.
Because that is definitely throughout all my coaching that I've had, the one thing they always said was, you're very good at motivating people who are like you. You're less good at motivating people who aren't like you.
Yeah.
And that was a consistent theme that to be fair, I almost was like, look, should we just cut to the chase? I know what you're going to tell me at the end of all this. And it was slightly more simplistic coaching, but that is actually really hard to do, like to because you're effectively saying, I am going to believe that there's in every person and there's something great they can bring to the table, which it doesn't always feel like that. Let's face it, when you're running big teams and, but do you think you got your head around that? Or
yeah. I mean, Microsoft's the greatest learning place. I mean, it's run, when in the time I was there, it's effectively run by HR and the civil service, but they really understood what the original meaning of DEI, don't get me going on the latest version of DEI, actually meant, which is the diversity of personality and emotion in people. And you need that mix because we live in a world where everyone receives things differently. Look, I'm, believe it or not, a very extroverted introvert. And what I learned was actually from the great Kevin Beatty when I was at the Mail, which was actually the smartest person in the room is probably the one that says the least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as you...
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Correct. Which is what they taught me at VNU over the road. And as you know, I do like to talk. And
You're in good company.
I've got to say, we've been really mindful that we talk way too much. So it's all about the guests. It's not to do with us.
We never listen to each other.
No. Oh, we never listen to each other. No. Well, it hasn't got very interesting things to say. That's why.
But and once you start learning that, and then you start to learn actually give space for the introverts. Right. It might be at the end of a meeting. It might be after the meeting, because time and place is very important. Because that's one of the other things that you start to learn as you mature as a leader. You know, in your 20s and 30s, there's a lot about the what. Get it done, get it measured. I've done it. Then you sort of go 30s, 40s into the how. How have I done it? Yeah. But actually, the when and the where is a real subtlety in terms of, you know, when do you have the conversation? Where do you have the conversation? How do you give space to those other people that really might have the great insights but aren't able to speak up? Is a real tactic that I learned later on.
I having foreign teams, for, you know, lots of different countries reporting. The one thing that tiny little thing, but I just used to say, put your hand up. Because actually, if you're, you know, English isn't your first language, it's quite hard to jump into a conversation and stop it and say, but actually put your hand up is quite easy. And there are little things like that just, as you say, give space to people. That could also go for an introvert, frankly, is just, you know, because then as the person running the meeting, in that case, you can go, right, I'm definitely going to give you time. And I think there's little things like that, you know, are still valid today in a big group.
Absolutely. And I love it. But it's also the how, right? Because, you know, you're in a position of power and you're putting the spotlight on them. Yeah. So the how, the invitation is so important. But that comes out of the culture that you built in the company before that.
Yeah. And do you think, as you said, you said in your 30s it's about the what? Or was it the 20s? And then it was the how. What was it with the what, the how?
So yeah, I think you start off very focused on the what. Yeah. What am I doing? Then you think about the how. Yeah. Then you get to the when and where. Yeah. And then now, as I'm getting towards, believe it or not, my 60s, is the why. And I think I think that does come with age and experience, though, doesn't it? And I think, you know, we talk about learning through our experiences. So I think it's something that people can aspire to, and it's just how you develop as a person. And then is that not more awareness? I think, isn't it more awareness, the how or the where? And the what is just you're putting your feet in their shoes versus it's probably quite insular as you're quite younger and quite egotistical. Whereas actually you learn to be a lot more gracious and actually think about other people versus yourself. Do you think that is just something that happens over time?
I mean, if you turn that around, if you're going to hack to, you know, a 20 something person in work today who might be listening, what would you say is from what you learn in your 50s, let's say, what would you say would be an important thing to put into practice earlier? Yeah. So I think this is a really important question because someone in their early 20s is about to go through something that none of us could have ever imagined. We dreamed of it. And so I'm going to talk about AI now because all of a sudden, you know, we were a generation that had all of the world's information in our pocket. Remember, we used to say that, you know, World Wide Web. But now you've got all the wisdom in the pocket. But we all know that AI is only as good as your prompt. And we can talk about prompt engineering. And I would say to a 20-year-old, it's really is about as good as the questions that you ask. Yeah, crudely put, shit in, shit out. Correct. Very crude. Absolutely. Sorry, absolutely. And again, you can go up the process. You are what you eat, right?
You know? So if you're feeding yourself really good information, you're surrounding yourself with really good people, so, you're with people that you want to emulate, you're not going to put so much shit in, as you say, and not so much shit's going to go out, and you're going to start to ask the right questions. So, it's so let's assume AI wasn't there. What were we saying to a 20-year-old? I would say that, it's very easy to jump around in a career. And I see a lot of the 20-somethings, 18 months is a long time, long form, what was it, long form, short form. And I think, stay. You really don't learn a job until, I would say, 28 to 36 months. That is the key learning time, in terms of really learning your skills. Why is that important? Because we're going to go into a world of AI agents. That if you don't really understand how things work, what is your purpose? And we're going to be in a world where, I wanted to set up a company called Veteran Validation, which is, you do your AI stuff, it will come out, and then you give it to someone tomorrow.
Yeah,
and
so that actually knows what they're talking
about. Exactly. So I think, asking the real questions. The second thing I think about the 20-year-olds is, I think, what a blessing that they've had life so easy, and in a world, in a PC world where a thick skin isn't grown easily, that somehow you've got to learn how to grow a thick skin. People are way too sensitive, feelings over facts. And the reality is, in this world, when you get out there, outside of the corporate cushions and comfort, it's a bit tougher. You need those experiences. Stress is good. Cuts are good. They will repair. You will learn from that. So I think, put yourselves in uncomfortable situations. Make sure you've got people around you that can catch you, like we talked about earlier,
exactly.
and have real visceral experiences.
Because I think that, that's what you touched on, that you do learn through experience, and you learn through the fuck-ups as much as you do the successes. And we'll just come on to potentially, we'd like to ask what your biggest fuck-up was, excuse the language. But I'm also a really firm believer in, we'll regret the decisions we don't make versus the ones we do, which goes a bit back into your say yes, or just make a decision, go forward. If it doesn't work out, you'll learn something from it. If it does, then amazing. So I think there's a lot to be said about just go out there, and that's how you'll grow your thick skin, won't you? By learning experience, saying yes, making hard decisions and going through with them. But if I can come back to across your career, you must have had a big fuck up at some point, have you?
I did not have one.
You didn't?
I had many.
Oh, right. Okay, I was going to say,
many,
wow.
many. Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, so you want to talk career or life?
Any. Listen, this is.
So I think let's just run through them, and you tell me which ones you want me to deep dive. Not finding a life partner.
Okay.
I mean, I do kind of think if I'd had that balance and not done it all on my own, how far further could I have gone?
Yeah.
It got too much. But a lot of the burnout was
Were you just too absent?
I was just I just didn't have time to invest in developing a relationship that was strong enough during the corporate years. I think that. So there were some big business fuck ups, as you call them. So the Daily Mail, when we were doing our M&A, we were buying up lots and lots of companies. We were buying jobs and properties and motors. I went to the board, and I went to Jonathan Rothermere, Lord Rothermere, and said, classifieds are going to go. And they went, oh, no, you don't understand. It's seasonal. It will come back. I said, no, they're going to go and they're going to be lost. They said, well, we'll go and build one. I said, we can't build it ourselves. So we got a £200 million pot. We went out and started buying job site. Thank you, Keith Potts and the Potts family, because they taught me everything that I needed to know to go forward. I had a great team in my M&A team. And we were buying left, right and centre. I think we did 18 acquisitions, but the 18th acquisition was Simply Switch, which I thought was a marketplace like classifieds, but it wasn't. And the big fuck up was the data was all there in front of us, but we were full of hubris that we knew we could fix it. Everything else was going great. And we're going to go forward. Got it for a reasonable price. It was a lot of money. I think, I can't say the numbers, but it was a big number for the time. We didn't do our due diligence properly. Yeah, so the IT infrastructure wasn't as good as we thought. And what we hadn't looked at was there was the futures market. Didn't understand oil and gas. And the futures market said prices are going to come down next year. What happens when prices come down? People don't need to switch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was no plan in that. And so all of a sudden, we're on a roll and it tanked. Now, if I'd been in America, 1 out of 18 failures.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well done. Well done. You're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
I've worked with companies which is that's not good enough. You need to fail more.
Yeah.
In a UK company, not good, especially in a political environment like Associated, which is a viper's nest. And it works very well because it is what it is, and they look after you very well. That was the ammunition that some of the arrows sort of came out. So I kind of regret that.
Yeah.
So when whether it's any one of those sort of moments, and if there's been others, you've mentioned a few names, but like, how do you think about mentorship? Who have you leaned on? Like, who have you leaned on over the years to sort of turn to? And what's your preferred format for mentorship? Like, how does it work best for you?
I've been blessed. I have access to some amazing people. I mean, top of the tree, Steve Myron. But I've known him since we were 21. He got me into media in the first place, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And whenever I had a sticky time, he was always there.
At the end of the phone.
And made stuff happen. Wise words. If he saw me going a little awry, it just put something in my head that I would go home and print out and stick on the wall in front of me. Like, I remember there was one stage, I think, in between the Mail and Microsoft. Don't be a busy fool, he said. You're very busy, but are you focused? The John Cummins. I worked with the great Bert Hardy, may he rest in peace. He was one of the greatest newspaper people of all time, and he was ferocious. I worked for him at Press Holdings with the Barclay brothers, but he used to be, the MD of the Standard and used to run Associated Newspapers, where he made MDs, grown men, cry. When he was walking down, literally you would see MDs diving under desks because it was a completely different generation. Yeah. But his wisdom was fantastic. And then I also have, some amazing female mentors. The great Sandy Hill. She's one of the best mountaineers that ever was. She was married in her marriage, they built MTV. From nothing to everything. She can do a one-handed handstand at 70. She broke the world record at 62 for the snatch lift weights at the CrossFit Games.
Oh my God.
She's very inspirational, both in terms of life and spirit in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
I've got a few shamans and rabbis that I lean on.
Yeah.
In terms of real life progress, but above all, I've got old mates, really good of old mates, both in work, and people I've grown up with, where people just tell me the truth.
It has been a bit of a theme that often it is family or friends and work friends. But what advice would you give to people out there that, if it's not family and friends, where are good places to find mentors?
I think imagine where you want to be. Find someone that you look up to and go, I like their lifestyle. I like the work. I like the way that they handle themselves. Go and test and see that that's real. It's not emperor's new clothes. And if it is, go and ask them. Yeah. Majority of people are honoured to be asked.
That's what, we've talked about that before. Yeah. It's just go ask them.
Just say, look, have you got 30 minutes of your time? And who hasn't got 30 minutes of the time? And we talk about, pay it forward, and especially to the younger people coming through the industry, they kind of need a little bit of support and help and mentorship.
And it's not just the younger people. I mean, I had a funny day yesterday. Literally, it's one of those days that I think I had 5 meetings in, all cancelled. All cancelled. It happens once every couple of years.
There must be something to do with the full moon. Is it full moon?
I think it absolutely must be. Mercury's in retrograde.
It will be, yeah.
And obviously the imposter syndrome in me went, it's me. And then, of course, it's not. It's spirit, universe, Gaia, whatever you want to call it, clearing the way. I had 4 calls from 4 very senior women in completely different industries needing advice and guidance.
Do you know, I love this because Marco doesn't let me talk about this type of stuff. And I'm such a believer in, look, we're way more than just human beings.
I think that is misrepresented.
And when I said then the full moon, if I'd said to you it was the full moon, you would have gone, oh, whatever, Rachel. This is all, yeah.
Without doubt.
Well, and then it basically, as you said, it cleared your diary to give space to 4 people that needed your advice.
Absolutely.
That is amazing. Can I ask you, sorry now, how often then does Shamandi come out these days?
Every day.
Okay, so just not the beard and the...
I know, I shaved the beard off because when I come to London, people talk to the beard.
Oh,
I'm of Jewish heritage, so if I'm in Northwest London, they think I'm a rabbi or trying to see what I ate last night. That's stuck in the long beard. If I come down into Media Land, they think I've become I've come up with a new name for a Whippy, a well-off hippie.
Ah, you are a Whippy.
I'm a Whippy.
You are a Whippy. Yeah. Oh my God, I think most people would love to be a Whippy, wouldn't they?
I think it's worth saying that whatever you've learnt through your own spiritual journey, you'll remember a few years back I came to see you when I was out of Spotify and consulting at the time, I think. And, at the time I'd spoken to quite a lot of people, as you do. You go and see what can inspire you. And it is interesting because I heard from lots of people who told me the same. Pretty much the same in terms of advice. And then I came to see you and it was a breath of fresh air, different perspective, look at things differently. You also got me to set up the business, not this business, a different one. And so, that is super important that people, I think, also maybe don't keep finding more of the same people to give you perspective, like try and maybe identify some people that look like they're doing things just slightly differently or their attitudes differently, because I think that's important too, because you can be a bit, we are, unfortunately, you could argue that Rachel and I in some way have broken out by starting a business, but we're still quite traditional. Let's just say that in many ways.
And in a place that we know and love.
And it's a comfortable space. So, I think that's what you did and how you did it and how you sort of taken it forwards. Those sorts of people are really important, I think.
Well, thank you. And I remember I'm sitting on my balcony
in
at Regent's Park and we went through it. And I look in the Jewish tradition, one of the most important things to do mitzvahs, good deeds. And in the Bible, it talks about 613 good deeds, and we should try and do as many good deeds as possible.
I like that.
And obviously in my blockchain days, obviously as soon as blockchain came out, I had to go and become an expert in it, and when I did a couple of certificates at MIT and Oxford and set up the London Blockchain Foundation, bought a few Bitcoin, might have spent them on things that might not be totally legal now. And if I did work it out, if I hadn't spent that Bitcoin on those things, it could be worth a few million. But anyway, you live and learn. We had a bit of fun on the way. But doing mitzvahs or karma, and building karma, pays back. And I've measured it, and I've had the time, which is when I'm not so busy, like I'm busyness. Business is being busy for the sake of being busy sometimes. You can observe. And a lot of the spiritual practice is about being in the moment and really observing. Yeah. And you can actually slow time down. And when you slow time down, you can actually then influence and manifest or manifest to make things happen. Because I really do believe words are spells.
Yeah, I think, there's so much in that. That's a whole another podcast in itself. And I think as we try and wrap up, and it's really sad that we've got to wrap up, and maybe you'll have more than one piece of advice, but we do like to end on is a one piece of advice personally or professionally that is really, really held in your life and has lasted, that you think is on top of everything else you've shared, it is worth absolutely sharing.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's difficult to get it down to one. So let me share a few that work together.
Yeah.
If you haven't read the 4 Agreements, read the 4 Agreements.
Okay, the 4 Agreements.
Which is about be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
Assume positive intent and don't take things personally. I mean, we all go back a long way, and I was a bit of a highly sensitive person.
Were you, Andy? I don't
Just a bit. And don't take things personally. And once you assume positive intent, it then gives you room to seek first to understand.
Yeah.
When I really learned how to do that, doesn't mean go and do it. Go and do it 1,000 times, and then you'll learn how to do it. Your world would change. And then it leads to the two things I would say I have above the door. One is trust the process. There is someone looking out for you. Don't try and control it. They know more than you, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Go with it. But practically, no one else cares. No one cares. You think they care. Your friends, your family, they don't care. And once you own that, you can go and do whatever you like.
Yeah.
As long as it's legal.
Yeah.
And it's done respectfully. No one cares.
I think I would say I would draw a line a little bit on that personally in terms of family. But in the work environment, it's what is definitely one of the pieces of advice I give people. It's like no one is spending as much time thinking about you than you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Everyone else has moved on. They've made a comment. They've thought a thought. And now they're on to the next thing. They're not sat there going, oh, crikey.
And also, you own you. Like, you should be responsible for yourself. You can't have everybody else doing that. You've got to own.
Yeah.
You've got to own. And I think, I would say with you, I think family, slightly different, but I think it's just taking that personal responsibility of how you operate and making sure that you are just the best that you can be. I think that's how we try and navigate we've got 3 values in our business: be smart, be kind, have integrity. It's like it's quite simple, if you can just operate in a way that's you're looking after yourself, but you're also mindful and respectful and aware. It's that awareness, isn't it? Awareness of the world around you. I think we can all be in a good place, but I really want to get into more Shamandi, and so maybe we'll have to get you back. We'll have a whole podcast just on that, can't we?
I'm on holiday that week, I think.
Okay, we'll definitely do that.
But we'll have to smudge the room, and we'll do the incense, and we'll get the sound healers in.
Oh my God, I love that sound bath.
Change the lights because the lights are a little bright in here, and
let's think about
that. Very
then.
deep, and but I think you should come.
We can do it like a bonus episode.
Yes,
but I think you should come because I think we can. I've got enough data to be able to prove to you to take the next step.
And I'm right there.
Rachel,
I am right with you.
I love it.
Oh, Andy,
thank you, Andy. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much, Shamandi. Shamandi, I'm going to call you Shamandi, not Shamandi. Or maybe on a Thursday, Shamandi. But really good. Thank you so very much. That was amazing.
And thank you for all you do. And I think you lead by example. Compassion and empathy is really at the heart of everything that we've talked about, and you've shown it to me, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, Marco, this is the bit where we have our final piece of advice. Normally, I would read out of the book by Richard Reed, founder of Innocent Drinks, his book, If I Could Tell You One Thing. But actually, so inspired were we by Andy that actually he had a quote or a little bit of a last piece of advice that he wanted to share with the listeners. And he talks about hydration, delegation, and the power of a well-placed pause. And he said, when I say hydration, I don't just mean water. I mean about how do you nourish your body and hydrate your body in the right way. Delegation is about delegating the things that or only do the things that you can do. If there's things that other people can do, maybe not as good as you, delegate them. That's one of his hacks. And the power of a well-placed pause is actually that reminder to just take a moment, breathe, reflect. And he said, and if it's a really tough day, a deep breath, a shot of espresso, and reminding myself that most problems aren't as big as our egos make them. puts him back on course for the day. So hopefully that's some good final advice for our listeners. Thank you very much.